Welcome to this Tuesday edition of Market Manta, the program in which we give you a complete update on the economic, business and stock market news of the day. My name is V. Ravi Kumar and with me is my Hindi co-anchor Manoj Pathak.
नमस्कार, मार्केट मंत्र के ताजा अंक में आपका स्वागत है। आधे घंटे के इस कार्यक्रम में हमेशा की तरह हम देश और दुनिया की चुनी हुई कारोबारी, आर्थिक और शेयर बाजार से संबंधित ताजा खबरों को लेकर हाजिर हैं। आइए शुरुआत करते हैं अंग्रेजी में हेडलाइन से, जिसे लेकर मौजूद हैं वीर रवि कुमार।
Domestic stock indices close almost flat. Sensex finishes near the 57,100 level. Nifty settles near the 17,000 mark. Rupee appreciates 4 paise against the US dollar and Brent crude rises about $85 per barrel.
घरेलू शेयर बाजार बिना किसी खास उतार चढ़ाव के अपने पूर्व स्तर के आसपास हुए बंद। सेंसेक्स 57,100 के स्तर के आसपास आया। निफ्टी 17,000 के नजदीक आकर हुआ बंद। अंतर बैंकिंग विदेशी मुद्रा बाजार में $1 की तुलना में रुपया हुआ 4 पैसे मजबूत और अंतर्राष्ट्रीय बाजारों में ब्रेंट कच्चे तेल की कीमत बढ़ी, $85 प्रति बैरल पर पहुंचे। घरेलू शेयर बाजार आज बिना किसी खास उतार चढ़ाव के अपने पूर्व स्तर के नजदीक बंद हुए। हालांकि लिवाली का दौर भी बाजार ने देखा और बिकवाली भी की गई, लेकिन आखिरकार फ्लैटिश टोन बना रहा बाजार में पूरे कारोबार के दौरान। सेंसेक्स और निफ्टी दोनों ही अपने पूर्व स्तर के नजदीक ही बंद हुए। हालांकि अंतर्राष्ट्रीय बाजारों से सकारात्मक रुख मिला, लेकिन निवेशकों के बीच लिवाली जमकर नहीं देखी गई। दोनों प्रमुख सूचकांक मामूली घाटे के साथ बंद हुए। सेंसेक्स 57,100 और निफ्टी 17,000 के पास आकर बंद हुआ। बॉम्बे स्टॉक एक्सचेंज का सेंसेक्स कारोबार के अंत में 38 अंक यानी 0.7% घटकर 57,108 पर बंद हुआ। उधर नेशनल स्टॉक एक्सचेंज का निफ्टी 9 अंक यानी 0.05% कम होकर 17,007 दर्ज हुआ। विस्तारित बाजार पर ध्यान दें तो वहां भी थोड़ा सा परिवर्तन देखने को मिला। मिड कैप्स अपने पूर्व स्तर पर रहा, कोई बदलाव इसमें नहीं था, जबकि स्मॉल कैप इंडेक्स में लिवाली के कारण 0.5% की तेजी देखने को मिली।
The Sensex and the Nifty ended almost flat. Both indices slipped marginally even as the cues from global share markets were positive. The Sensex closed near the 57,100 level while the Nifty settled near the 17,000 mark. The Sensex lost 38 points or 0.07% to close at 57,108. The Nifty also slipped 9 points or 0.05% to finish at 17,007. In the broader market at the BSE, the mid-cap index ended flat while the small-cap index rose 0.5%. In the Sensex pack, 17 companies posted gains while 13 logged losses. Power Grid gained 1.8%, IndusInd Bank climbed 1.3%, HCL and Dr. Reddy's both surged 1.2% each. On the other hand, Tata Steel tumbled 2.3%, Titan plunged 2.2%, Kotak Bank declined 1.5%, and SBI Bank ended 1.4% down. In sectoral indices at BSE, 8 sectors gained while 11 logged losses. Oil and gas gained 1.2% and energy sector surged 0.9%. Tech index rose 0.8% and telecom added 0.7%. Metal and bank sectors lost 0.8% each. Capital goods declined 0.7% and power sector plunged 0.6%. The overall breadth of the BSE trade was positive as shares of 1,769 companies gained while 1,639 companies fell. Shares of 132 companies remained unchanged.
नजर डालते हैं रुपए की स्थिति पर। अंतर बैंकिंग विदेशी मुद्रा बाजार में $1 की तुलना में रुपया 4 पैसे मजबूत होकर 81.58 रुपये पर बंद हुआ। उधर दुनिया की 6 प्रमुख मुद्राओं की तुलना में डॉलर की स्थिति दर्शाने वाला सूचकांक अंतर्दिवसीय कारोबार में समाचार तैयार किए जाने तक 0.35% घटकर 113.71 पर चल रहा था। हमारे साथ खबरों पर ऑनलाइन चर्चा के लिए आमंत्रित हैं वरिष्ठ आर्थिक पत्रकार सुषमा रामचंद्रन। सुषमा जी नमस्कार, कार्यक्रम में आपका स्वागत है।
थैंक यू।
सुषमा जी, बाजार में आज की गतिविधि पर हम आपकी प्रतिक्रिया समझना चाहेंगे। शुरुआती दौर में लिवाली दिख रही थी, हालांकि थोड़ी देर के लिए बाजार नीचे भी गया था, आखिरकार एकदम से फ्लैटेस्ट टोन पर बंद हुए हैं प्रमुख सूचकांक। किन अर्थों में ले रही आज के कारोबार को?
देखिए, ये पांचवा दिन है कि मार्केट जैसे आपने कहा फ्लैट है, लेकिन फ्लैट में भी मार्जिनली नीचे गया है। तो पांचवा दिन है जिससे में मार्केट्स ने अपना रुख दिखाया कि भाई बेरिश ट्रेंड चल रहा है, डाउनवर्ड ट्रेंड चल रहा है स्टॉक मार्केट का। और ये इनकी वजह ज्यादातर अंतर्राष्ट्रीय स्तर पे जो डेवलपमेंट्स हैं उनकी वजह से हम असर हो रहा है हमारी स्टॉक मार्केट के ऊपर और विश्व भर में स्टॉक मार्केट्स के ऊपर। पहली बात तो ये है कि जो फेडरल रिजर्व ने अपने अग्रेसिवली इंटरेस्ट रेट हाइक किए हैं 75 बेसिस पॉइंट और कई देशों में यूएस में, यूके में और यूरोप में बहुत हाई मुद्रास्फीति की दर जा रही है। ये यूएस में 8% से ऊपर है, जो 40 साल में मतलब रिकॉर्ड है 40 साल के बाद। तो ये इसकी वजह से फेडरल रिजर्व को छोड़िए बाकी सारे सेंट्रल बैंक्स दुनिया भर में अपने रेट्स बढ़ा रहे हैं। अब ये रेट्स बढ़ा रहे हैं तो डर मार्केट्स का यही है कि हम रिसेशन की तरफ जाएंगे और ये जो इसका जो असर है, जैसे मैंने कहा ग्लोबल मार्केट्स के ऊपर इतनी वॉलेटिलिटी चल रही है और उसके अलावा अगर आप देखें अंतर्राष्ट्रीय स्तर पर रशिया और यूक्रेन का जो कॉन्फ्लिक्ट चल रहा है उसमें अभी कोई रुकावट नहीं है। चीन में अभी भी तकलीफें हैं और कोविड की जीरो कोविड पॉलिसी की वजह से उनके अभी भी ये अभी स्लो डाउन चीन में अभी है। तो ये जो अंतर्राष्ट्रीय स्तर पे जो सारी डेवलपमेंट्स है उनका असर हमारी स्टॉक मार्केट के ऊपर हुआ है और सिर्फ हमारे देश में नहीं हुआ, कई सारे सब देखिए ऑल अराउंड द वर्ल्ड ये हुआ है।
सुषमा जी, when you look at the upcoming Friday decision of the RBI to whatever they increase the rates by or they don't, there is expectation that if things would have been normal, then RBI could have signaled that the worst in the inflation is behind by probably looking at 25 basis points or 30 basis points. But now with the forex situation on 23rd September, for the first time, rupee crossed 80, and although there was some betterment today, but it's still substantially above 81. Does that put more pressure on the RBI to probably increase the rates by a higher amount than they otherwise would have?
I think that probably, yes, to some extent there is pressure, definitely, as far as the rupee is concerned. But I think that the RBI was very categorical that they have a certain target number to, as far as inflation is concerned, and they want to achieve it. Plus, they will also look at what is happening globally, central banks, what is happening. So the RBI will not be out of sync with what is happening in the rest of the world. And yes, you are right. The expectation now is that there would be a 50 basis points hike in the interest rate. Of course, we have to see what happens. But definitely the indications are all pointing in that direction.
And if you look at the Fed stance, the Fed has clearly a very hawkish stance because Jerome Powell has clearly said that it's my job to ensure that we reach 2% inflation level and we'll do whatever it needs to be done. So they've already indicated that probably by December they'll do another 275 bips increase, probably end with almost another 150 bips by the end of the year. Does RBI have to mirror that? Because right now we are at a certain level and they're around 3%. So 5.4, there's almost more than 2 percentage points difference. So if they increase by 150 basis points, would we also have to mirror it because of the pressure on our rupee?
No, I don't think we would have to mirror it because, as you rightly pointed out, our inflation targeting is much higher. We don't have to come down to 2% or 3%. For the US, 2 to 3% is the norm. It's a normal scenario. For us, 4 to 5% would be quite acceptable. And therefore, to come down from probably 7% in August to 4 to 5% would be an easier task. But yes, they will definitely be looking at raising interest rates till they achieve the goal of containing inflation.
सुषमा जी, रुपए में जो गिरावट हम देख रहे हैं उससे कौन कौन सा क्षेत्र प्रभावित हो सकता है और भारतीय अर्थव्यवस्था पर कहां-कहां विपरीत रूप से प्रभाव पड़ेगा?
देखिए, सबसे बड़ी बात है जो हमारे तेल की आयात है उसके ऊपर असर पड़ेगा, जो हमारा इंपोर्ट बिल है उसके ऊपर असर पड़ेगा। अभी हालांकि जो तेल के दाम है इंटरनेशनल मार्केट में वो काफी कम हो रहे हैं, वो $83-84 पर बैरल की तरफ चले गए हैं और वो हमारे लिए बहुत ही अच्छी बात है। लेकिन क्योंकि रुपया इतना गिरा है तो लगता है उसका जो फायदा है शायद हमें इतना नहीं मिलने वाला, क्योंकि जो कॉस्ट क्योंकि डॉलर्स में इसका कॉस्ट बढ़ जाएगा। तो ये एक तो तेल की आयात का जो खर्चा है वो बढ़ेगा, और दूसरी बात जो जहां इंडस्ट्रियल क्षेत्र में जहां इंपोर्ट्स, रॉ मटेरियल्स, कमोडिटीज, इक्विपमेंट का की जो जरूरत है उनके दाम भी बढ़ेंगे। अब ये हमारे जैसे ऑटोमोबाइल क्षेत्र में की कंपोनेंट्स और या जो चिप्स वगैरह इंपोर्ट होते हैं, और काफी सारे इंडस्ट्रीज में की कंपोनेंट्स जो हैं, बहुत ज्यादा नहीं पर क्रिटिकल कंपोनेंट्स काफी सारे इंपोर्ट होते हैं, तो उनके दाम बढ़ेंगे। तो वो जो है उसके अल्टीमेटली जो फिनिश प्रोडक्ट है उसका भी दाम बढ़ेगा और उसका असर अल्टीमेटली उपभोक्ता के ऊपर होगा और इन्फ्लेशनरी प्रेशर्स बढ़ेंगे इकोनॉमी में।
हाँ, ये चलें वैश्विक बाजारों की ओर। सबसे पहले एशियाई क्षेत्र पर नजर डालते हैं। एशिया प्रशांत क्षेत्र के अधिकांश शेयर बाजारों में आज शुरुआती दौर में गिरावट देखने को मिली, लेकिन बाद में लिवाली का रुख बना और प्रमुख सूचकांक बढ़त के साथ बंद हुए। चीन का शंघाई कंपोजिट इंडेक्स 1.4% लाभ में रहा। जापान के निक्की 225 सूचकांक में 0.5% की तेजी आई। दक्षिण कोरिया का कोस्पी भी 0.1% लाभ के साथ बंद हुआ। उधर हांगकांग का हिंग सेंग बिना किसी उतार चढ़ाव के अपने पूर्व स्तर के आसपास बंद हुआ। इधर चलन के विपरीत सिंगापुर का स्ट्रेट्स टाइम्स इंडेक्स 0.5% घाटे में रहा। यूरोपीय शेयर बाजार की ओर चलें तो अंतर्देशीय कारोबार में समाचार तैयार की जाने तक लिवाली दिख रही थी। जर्मनी का डेक्स और फ्रांस का कैक 40 दोनों सूचकांक 0.8% ऊपर कारोबार कर रहे थे, जबकि लंदन का FTSE 100 बिना किसी उतार चढ़ाव के अपने पूर्व स्तर के आसपास बना हुआ था।
Sushma ji, there's a report coming in. You mentioned earlier the China zero COVID policy as well.
Yes.
There's reports coming in from World Bank today that they've downgraded the GDP growth forecast for China to 2.8%, and this is the first time in over 30 years, actually in almost 35 years, when China will be growing at a lesser rate than the rest of the Asia. The rest of Asia is expected to grow at around 5.25 according to World Bank, and China is probably going to come in at around 2.5, 2.8. Now, what does this China signify for the world? Because China is a very important cog in the global wheel, so to say, and there are a lot of things going on in China right now. What does this have an impact, apart from all the other geopolitical things that are happening in Ukraine and Russia and all? What does China have to impact India and probably the world on the whole?
I think there's no doubt about it that China is one of the largest economies. It's one of the biggest exporters, and it is one of the biggest suppliers of goods and equipment. Now, when we talk about global supply chains having got disrupted, one of the issues has been to get the kind of components that were normally coming from China. And in fact, that is one of the reasons that many companies are now shifting their production base from China to India. And because of the uncertainties in policy and probably even political developments over there. So yes, we have to remember that China has been supplying the entire world. It's you can say almost the factory of the world. So when it slows down, it creates problems. I mean, if you remember way back in when the pandemic started, at that time we were having problems in getting pharmaceutical ingredients, which were a large proportion of them were coming from China, and these were basic pharmaceutical ingredients. So in the absence of supplies from there was a lot of problem for the pharma industry in this country. So China is a huge producer of a wide range of components, of equipment, chemicals, petrochemicals, and therefore when it slows down, it results in a slowing down of the global economy. And also, apart from that, it is also a huge consumer of raw materials and goods. Now, it is the largest importer of oil. And the fact that China is slowing down has had an impact on the price of oil. So these are China is, as you rightly said, it is like a fulcrum of the world economy. And slowly, many companies, international companies, are realizing that there are problems in that economy, in that country, and they are trying to shift base. But it will be very difficult to shift in a big way.
सुषमा जी, हम कोविड दौर में जो एक कह लें कि विभिन्न दुनिया के देशों में एक नीति बनी थी या विकल्प के तौर पर चीन के साथ +1 की बात चल रही थी, और दूसरी ओर भारत में आत्मनिर्भर भारत और मेक इन इंडिया का मुहिम भी लगातार चल रहा है। वैसे में भारत किन क्षेत्रों में +1 की अपनी हिस्सेदारी बनाने में सक्षम हुआ है और कहां-कहां ऐसा लगता है कि मेक इन इंडिया अभियान के तहत बाहर का कह लें निवेश हमारे यहाँ हुआ? कौन से वो क्षेत्र रहे जो लाभान्वित हुए हैं इससे?
अब देखिए ये जो बहुत सारे क्षेत्र हैं। अगर आप देखें तो एक क्षेत्र तो हम कह सकते हैं जो कभी नहीं जिसका उत्पादन कभी नहीं है, वो है चिप फैब्रिकेशन, जो सेमीकंडक्टर फैब्रिकेशन। इसकी अभी एक फैक्ट्री आ रही है गुजरात में, लेकिन वो एक फैक्ट्री के आने से सेमीकंडक्टर प्रोडक्शन नहीं होता, उसमें बहुत सारे रिलेटेड प्रोसेसेस और प्रोडक्शन होने चाहिए। तो एक तो ये बहुत बड़ा एरिया है। और बाकी तो अगर आप देखें डिजिटल टेक्नोलॉजी में, मोबाइल फोन्स में, जहां आपने देखा होगा कि एप्पल जो इतनी बड़ी मोबाइल फोन कंपनी है, वो अपनी प्रोडक्शन यूनिट्स यहाँ ले आए हैं। तो मेरे ख्याल डिजिटल टेक्नोलॉजी और ये दोनों हाईटेक एरियाज की हम बात कर रहे हैं। तो हाईटेक एरियाज में मेरे ख्याल में इंडिया ने काफी प्रोग्रेस किया है इस क्षेत्र में।
जी।
Let's move on to the U.S. markets. The U.S. share markets declined yesterday as investors fretted that the Federal Reserve's aggressive campaign against inflation could throw the U.S. economy into a sharp downturn. The Dow Jones Industrial Average Index fell 1.1%, the S&P 500 ended 1% down, and the Nasdaq Composite slipped 0.6%. Sushma ji, if you looked at the U.S. market, for almost 10 years we had a bull run which nobody could stop, and then now they are down 20% from their peak, so that technically is a bear market. So the Dow Jones has entered, the blue chip index of the US markets has entered into a bearish phase. Now obviously we say that we have been saying that for a while, that if they catch cold in Nasdaq or in the US, we will sneeze in a while. So that has not been happening. We have not fallen into a bearish phase so far. What do you think, is that likely to happen probably in a few more weeks, few more months, or do you think we have become like a oasis of growth in a world full of doom and despair?
Well, I think most observers are describing India as some kind of a haven, where we are, and one of the reasons is that they are saying that, the reason that India has been able to withstand the impact of all the geopolitical developments better than other countries is firstly, of course, that our industry is very domestic oriented. We are geared to, meeting the demands of the domestic market, which in a sense is not always the greatest thing to be, because it would be preferable if we were more export oriented. But the fact is that this has given us some kind of insulation from all the developments, all the things that we have talked about, and it is also it has also been able to withstand the impact, the inflationary pressures. In fact, rather surprisingly, we have our inflation levels, our inflation rates are relatively better as compared to Europe. I think UK is also around 8%, US is around 8%. So there, it's extremely high. And India has been able to contain it. And in fact, I would say that the RBI might be the envy of other central banks in having contained and in having managed inflation better than in other countries. So also we have had, although foreign institutional investors are flowing out from the stock markets just now, till about, say, a month back, we were having FIIs coming into the country. And I think even on this program, I talked about, the record FII inflows just maybe over a month or so ago. So at a time when other emerging markets were facing outflow of foreign investors, we were still having the inflow. Of course, that may have changed. But the fact is that the potential in India is seen. The growth story is very evident. You talked about China's growth rate, and as compared to that, India's growth rate is expected to be 7 to 7.5% this year. And therefore, the potential, the valuations, of course, in the stock market are still considered a little high, but still fairly attractive given the outlook. So I think these are the reasons for the fact that India is, as you said, some kind of oasis or haven in the entire volatility of the global market.
Sushma ji, there's some strange things also happening in the world, although US very clearly, the Fed seems to be hell-bent on raising rates. I won't use that word. They're very clear that they're going to raise the rate. But you're seeing different things emerging from other parts. I was looking at UK, the central bank is raising rates. Similarly, the European Central Bank is raising rates. They have actually raised rates to more than 0% for the first time in over a decade. But in UK, the Prime Minister, the government is trying to cut taxes to spur growth, and the central bank is trying to increase rates to bring down inflation, which is the equivalent of pressing the accelerator and the brake pedal simultaneously. And then you look at Turkey, which is almost 80% inflation, and Recep Tayyip Erdogan says that let's cut rates there. So what is this mishmash of economics going around in the world right now?
It's not, this is what you talk about, it's not really economics, it's politics. In the UK, you have a new government coming in, or rather a new prime minister coming in, which is the same political party, but this person who has now become prime minister, made a commitment that tax rates will be brought down, and that is how probably she was able to win the support of the bulk of the Conservative Party, as against the other candidate who argued against cutting tax rates. So it's politics really, and similarly in Turkey, of course, Erdogan's politics is something very unique and interesting. So this is not really economics. This is really politics. And when you combine these kind of decisions, these are like populist decisions taken even in this country, where political leaders make commitments to, say, supply free power or provide some kind of free subsidy, and when they come into power, maybe at the state government, they find that the exchequer cannot bear the burden of the commitments that they have made. So sililarly, Liz Truss in the UK is cutting tax rates, but this is not. Is this the right way to go? That I think will have to be seen in the days to come.
And Sushma ji, as we lead up to the Friday rate decision that MPC would take, we are at a rare moment when the inflation rate in India is lower than that in US and other developed economies. In my career, that's probably a very rare moment that I've seen. So what can and of course you're seeing the rupee depreciation also, and what can the RBI do now to further contain rupee depreciation, or do you believe they should contain it at all?
Well, I think that the thing is that the RBI has already expended a large amount of foreign exchange reserves in trying to curb the rupee going beyond 80 rupees. Now, it has gone beyond 80, it's at 80 or 81 plus. And I think that it is now time for the RBI to let the rupee find its own level. And, the problem, of course, is that this is something that is more a political issue in our country, maybe probably in all countries, I don't know. that whenever you talk about rupee depreciation, it gives the feeling that there's some loss of sovereignty. But that is not so. I mean, China, for instance, has very successfully used a very devalued yen to make its exports competitive in world markets. In fact, that has been the complaint of the U.S. against China. So I think that perhaps it would be a good idea if the RBI were to allow the rupee to find its own level, and let's see how. But of course, I think the RBI has to take that call, because it really cannot continue to expend the foreign exchange reserves on this particular issue.
Right, so let's look at an area which takes a lot of our foreign exchange every year. That's oil. Global crude oil prices today rose more than 1.5% from a 9-month low level. The crude prices climbed, supported by supply curbs in the U.S. Gulf of Mexico ahead of Hurricane Ian and a slight softening in the U.S. dollar. In intraday trade, Brent crude was trading at $85.60 per barrel, while WTI crude prices were at $78 per barrel. Sushma ji, our entire budget calculations are predicated, of course, for the entire year at around $75 per barrel. For a substantial period, it has been more than that, although the yearly average might be still closer to that figure. Where do you see this figure coming to on an average basis for this year?
Well, it's very difficult to make a prediction right now, because this decline in prices has been due to the expectation that the world is moving into recessionary conditions. Therefore, demand is likely to fall, and therefore the market has reacted accordingly. So over the next few months, one has to see. But you are right that the budget in this country was predicated on a price of $75 to $80 per barrel. That whole outlook, unfortunately, was disrupted by the Russia-Ukraine conflict, and prices went up to as high as $130 per barrel. Subsequently, of course, they were hovering around 110 to 120. So it's a very happy situation for this country that it has not only gone below 100, it is now around 83, 84, and they are talking about, experts are saying that it should come down to about $80. As I said, it's very difficult to make a prediction. It depends on the conditions in the world, economic conditions over the next 2-3 months.
आइए अब चलें कार्यक्रम के अंतिम चरण में सराफा बाजार। सोने और चांदी के भाव आज घरेलू सराफा बाजारों में थोड़े से तेज दिखे हैं। मल्टी कमोडिटी एक्सचेंज में अक्टूबर में आपूर्ति किए जाने वाले सोने का मूल्य अंतर्दिवसीय कारोबार में समाचार तैयार किए जाने तक 260 रुपए बढ़कर 49,410 रुपए प्रति 10 ग्राम पर चल रहा था। वहीं दिसंबर में आपूर्ति की जाने वाली चांदी 715 रुपए उछलकर 56,065 रुपए प्रति किलो के स्तर पर कारोबार कर रही थी। विदेश में ध्यान दें तो न्यूयॉर्क मर्केंटाइल एक्सचेंज में सोना थोड़ा बढ़कर $1,647.60 प्रति औंस पर था। चांदी भी तेजी के साथ $18.70 प्रति औंस पर अंतर्दिवसीय कारोबार में चल रही थी। बस यहीं पर श्रोताओं की ओर से सुषमा जी हम आपको बहुत बहुत धन्यवाद देना चाहेंगे।
शुक्रिया।
Before we close this edition of Market Mantra, a reminder of the headlines. Domestic stock indices close almost flat. Sensex finishes near the 57,100 level. Nifty settles near the 17,000 mark. Rupee appreciates 4 paise against the US dollar, and Brent crude rises above $85 per barrel. That's all that we have in this edition of Market Mantra. Market Mantra comes every day at 6:30 p.m. So if you have any interest in business and stock market news, do tune in to our channel at 6:30 p.m. to listen to Market Mantra. That's all that we have in this edition of Market Mantra. Namaskar.
Market Mantra.